Hello and welcome back to my channel. It's Fatmata here from Traditionally Inspired Meaningful Art. I'm really excited to be back with you this morning. It is Sunday, March 23rd at 5:52 in the morning. I've been up and I just finished having my suhoor, which is the pre-dawn meal before we begin fasting at like the break of dawn. So I think I have like 3 more minutes to get my water in before I start fasting. While it was quiet, I thought that I would come down so that I could share with you what's been going on in the sewing room. I want to say this past week, but a lot of this really just got done yesterday, Saturday of this weekend. So I've been quite busy all of Saturday. My husband allowed me to kind of just be in here and do my own thing. So I really appreciated that. And I wanted to show you what I got up to. So I am wearing the dress that I talked about in the last video. Now this is an adaptation of S8875. It is one of my favorite dress patterns. And I hacked it to include a waistline seam and just added a full-length gathered skirt. Now I made this quite a few years ago, and I either cut the wrong size or did something wonky when I was putting it together. I could not breathe comfortably in the dress. So either I had to give it to someone, but really what I wanted to do was wear it myself. But because I had lined the bodice, which does not come with the pattern, I hacked it to include that so I'd have a clean finish. It took me forever to actually have the mind to go in. I took this thing apart. I seam ripped all of the various areas, including the center front and the bodice, the sides, and the center back where the zipper was. So I think in total, letting out and putting a smaller seam allowance on all of the side seams and the center front, including moving the zipper to the very edge of the fabric in the back, allowed me to get about 2 inches all around, which is great. I literally had negative ease in this dress prior to making this alteration. So I'm very, very happy that I actually stuck to it. I don't love alterations, but sometimes they're necessary if you want to have the clothes back in your closet. Something that I had started earlier in the year and just had to put to the side because it drove me a little bit bonkers was this Coatigan. And this is the year that I want to use up as much of my fabric as possible. And this faux sherpa from Joann Fabrics was taking up so much space in my stash, and I wanted to get it used up as much of it as possible. So I decided to make this Coatigan, which is S8742. And I had made it once before. And because I already had experience making it, I understood sort of the construction method and I liked the fit of it. And noticed that I was wearing my previous one so much this fall, winter, so I wanted to make this. Now, the last time you saw this, I was really upset with how the shawl collar came out because it was really wavy and wonky. So I went in, I literally took out that entire seam all along the front and around the shawl collar. I applied woven interfacing to the facing side, and then you can't see this, but it's because it's black, but black knit interfacing on the regular side. I wanted to make sure that it had a bit of stability, so that's why I went in to add a strip of woven interfacing to the facing side, right where I was going to need to do my stitching so that it wouldn't warp the fabric, which is what I think happened the initial time I made this. And I wanted to avoid that. I encountered a number of other issues. However, in the end, it got done. I have hemmed it. So it actually, and I put 2 hook and eye closures from my vintage collection. So they're quite big. So it just sort of closes like so. One of the things I was really sad about when I initially made this is that I forgot to add pockets to the front. So I thought to myself, as this is a Coatigan, I probably would want to have pockets. Now, I am really sad that they're not on the outside because I keep doing this, like wanting to put my hands in pockets, and they're not there. However, I did think for the sake of my phone, keys, lip balm, different things that one would need when I wore this, I did want to have pockets, so I put some on the inside because I ended up lining this. So I had some of this scrap denim from, you already know why I had denim in the sewing room, don't you? But I went ahead and added these 2 patch pockets on the inside right there, so I could put my things in. It holds a decent amount, like I can fit my phone in there and be on my way. I had some denim straps on it initially that I ended up seam ripping the side seams and removed them because I did not like them. If you want to hear more about this Coatigan in full detail, how I color blocked it, my initial inspiration, and some of the woes of making it the first time, I'll go ahead and link to a video where I share all about this make. But as far as updates that I did this time around, because I had to go in and sort of remove the seam that was originally there, it brought that seam in quite a bit. So on this front cover, I did view A. So as you can see, that is a shawl collar. So initially it should sort of sit and be more of a shawl. However, because I removed and sort of lost some of the seam allowance, right now it sort of falls really beautifully where it just seems like a standing collar here. And then it just falls kind of straight down, which I don't mind actually. So it stays open. I feel like it does sort of meet in the front. All in all, I'm really happy that I committed to fixing this as well, and now it's super wearable. I actually wore it, I guess last night, but this past night. I had also previously whipped up Very Easy Vogue 9014. This is a vintage pattern. But what I wasn't able to share in the video at the time, because I had just made them, since I had already had them cut out and in my sewing room, I didn't notice how tight I had made the elastic. I had already top stitched them down. There are 2 rows of almost 1 inch elastic. It was so tight that there was no way that I'd be able to wear it. So what I ended up doing was removing the top stitching. See it there? Stops here. Removing the top stitching from the back. I pulled out the elastic and just added to the elastic. Now you might be thinking to yourself, that's a whole lot of elastic you had to add there. How tight did you really make this? Well, it's also interesting to note that I then went and added too much elastic, because now it's just sort of flopping with positive ease away from my body. So I now have to go back in yet again. Fatmata, measure twice, cut once. Some people never learn. Some people is me. I am some people. Okay. But I am gonna go back in. Luckily I had not closed that area in the trousers, so I can still access the elastic. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that off, cut it down a bit. I'm gonna try it on, pull the elastic to where it feels comfortable, mark that, genius idea really, and then cut and stitch it and close it up. But hopefully these will be wearable soon. And since we can be nitpicky because we make the clothes, I just want to show you something that's going to grind my gears for time immemorial, wearing these trousers that I wish I would have seen, noted, and avoided when cutting this out, but I didn't. Look at the back. This is the back center seam. Do you see this motif here? Do you see how it's not even across? Like, why couldn't I have just cut it out and stopped with this black pattern here? What's happening here? Thankfully, it's behind me, but I was so annoyed when I saw that. Any hoosers. So that is still to do. But another whip, work in progress, that I had created very recently was the Coda Quilted Coat by Love Notions. Now, I was working with a lot of a remnant wool fabric that I had in my stash from a project that I'd worked on for my mom years ago. it was so many strips of fabric that I then had to piece together, 4 pieces per sleeve, mind you. But in the end, we made it. I thought it was super roomy and boxy. I ended up making the size medium when I actually considered the fact that this coat is meant to be buttoned up, and I made mine super cropped so it doesn't actually fall and kind of have the full silhouette of what it was supposed to be. I think that's why it stood so far away from my body. Hopefully you can see that in the photos. And I wasn't a huge fan of that. I decided to line it because the wool is super itchy. So I lined it with this stretch denim, which is the same stretch denim I used to make the pockets here. So I used that stretch denim. I had this satiny fabric in my stash from a dress that I had made for my cousin a couple of years ago, and the last time we spoke I was frustrated with myself because when I cut out the sleeve lining I had to piece it together and it was not long enough, so it was puckering and pulling on the outer fabric and it just looked really bad. So I think in that video I was like, oh, I might take it out and do some other things. No. What I did was took that same denim fabric, cut out a strip of that, added it to the bottom of the satiny bit, and just went ahead and serged that baby on to the edge of the outer fabric. Clean, easy peasy. The Coda quilted coat is also meant to be bias bound all along the edge. So I did that in a black bias binding all around the edge. Now because it was black bias binding on and on the inside it was the blue, I really just didn't like it. I don't particularly care for this bias binding. It was just something that I had in my stash, but it worked well to sort of have a clean finish. I did go and serge everything before bias binding it, just for my peace of mind, because this fabric frays like nobody's business. So that was a good idea. But then I was sitting there and I was like, it looks so unfinished. I had about a rectangle, like small rectangle like this left of the fabric. And I just was like, I really don't like this finish. I then had the bright idea to cut that rectangle into 4 strips, connect them, and see if I could do one of that like a Chanel inspired, how they do the like fringe business on the front of coats. You can see it better on the inside. So I did a very narrow zigzag stitch on either side of the center of the strip that I was going to use. So you can see there's a zigzag right here where you see this indentation. There's a zigzag stitch right here. I did that so that I could attach it and then fray the ends of it to have that, you know, that iconic sort of fringe look, which I really prefer. I prefer that it's all the same fabric all along the front. So that strip was able to carry me through all along the front of this, and the tiny scrap that I had left over, I also went and did a really tiny baby fringe along the cuffs just to make it feel like a more clean and unified finish. Now, I wish I knew that that was how I was going to finish the, you know, the front and the sleeve, because I would have tried to piece together these little remnants to do the same thing along the bottom. Now, what I tried to do in order to combat the fact that it pulled away from my body as much as it did is do like a bomber style finish at the bottom. So I had this rib knit black fabric in my stash, so I just went ahead and used that. On second thought, I think it's made out of like a nylon, so it just feels kind of light compared to how thick this wool and denim combination is. But hey ho, I did the sort of like front tab bit in the wool. So this is what it looks like on. It's not doing that strange pulling thing on the sleeves. Finishes right there. So if I wore something that was a bit longer that came down, it'd be pretty nice. I feel like the stretchy fabric at the bottom sort of just collapses on itself. It's not substantial at all. I don't quite think I would wear it closed up with buttons, with it overlapping, So I'm wondering if I could use those same hook and eyes and just do like a hook and eye here at the bottom, maybe 2 at the bottom to hold it, and then leave the rest open. That's what I'm thinking for now for the Coda quilted coat, but I am happy that I went ahead and finished this. My hopes for this jacket were very minimal. I just would have loved to have had anything that was wearable, really, because we were literally dealing with scraps of fabric, and I'm very happy that I got a little jacket out of it. It was also a great opportunity for me to test out the Coda quilted coat, and I do think I will make more. It is super simple to make, which I like a lot. Now, the big project I've been working on all weekend is actually something that I'm making for my little cousin for Eid, which is going to be coming up quite soon, next week, inshallah. And that is our sort of celebration to wrap up the month of Ramadan after our, devotion and supplications and, fasting and so much. It's a great day to kind of come together as a community and celebrate. So she wanted an Eid dress. Let me show you the fabric. So she had seen this abaya. Another word for abaya would be like a kaftan. Thank you. Someone in the comments was like, oh, I like the kaftans. And I was like, oh, that's another word for it. So I call them abayas, but kaftans. But she had seen one out of this sort of poly satiny fabric that has this sort of liquid look to it, and she wanted this beautiful vibrant cobalt blue. So we looked and searched everywhere, and I came to find that the name of this type of fabric is called liquefied organza. I think I will put the name on the screen, but that is what they call this, where you kind of, as you crumple it, it does look like, like water, like it's a wet look almost. So what she wanted was a butterfly abaya that ties on the inside, that has ruffles along the sleeves. And we are making progress. So here I have it so far. We have one sleeve done. It has very little camera appeal unless there's a body in it, but I am still working on this. As you can see, we have one more sleeve to go. The ruffle is made, but she is going to help me tomorrow, most likely, to actually pin the ruffle on because it is a big task. And then I will sew. Then I will have her iron it because I am doing French seams for the ruffle just to give it a clean look, since this part will kind of open up based on how we made it. I can't wait to show you this in all of its full glory, most likely next week. And yeah, it's just been a cool project to kind of figure out along with her. And hopefully it's going to be an item that she really likes. So her garment was actually what I had in mind when I was making this sort of practice butterfly abaya that I showed you all in the last video or 2 videos ago. And I'm really happy to get started on the one that I'm making for her, and hopefully she'll really enjoy that. I've not put the ties in on the inside on that one just yet. Just trying to work on all of the, bigger pieces first, and then we'll find the placement that feels right for her at her waistline, and then I'll clean off the neckline. Now, working on all of these projects has its pros and cons. Sometimes when I have a big chunk of time to just devote to sewing, I want to pack in as much as I possibly can within the time that I have. And that might mean jumping between projects, jumping from one project to another and kind of flip-flopping between, especially if I can use the same thread color, which there were lots of blues, as you can see, but I just would swap out my thread. But I was working on sort of all of these projects interchangeably. When I got to a stopping point with the Coatigan, I would flip to hand sewing the lining back on the dress that I'm wearing right now. Then I had a spark of inspiration to do the little trim. Then I'd work on that. I was just back and forth, and it's a lot. That means pattern pieces are everywhere. This blue thread frays and shreds to pieces like nobody's business. I had to overlock every single thing. Do you see this nonsense? Listen, This, I might regret this later, but I just want to show you all the sewing room because it's a disaster in here. Send help. Beginning with my overlocker. It's just Dusty is probably going to be very upset with me by the end of all of these projects. But look, we're playing thread chicken. We're almost done with that navy. Disaster. This is what I'm working with. This is what I'm working with. Look at the floor. Look at the floor. I can't make this stuff up, people. I just have ideas, plans, things. This is still here waiting to be talked about. Needless to say, I am definitely going to be in for a big office cleanup very soon. So I think as soon as I finish with my cousin's abaya or kaftan, I'm gonna go ahead and do a major sort of refresh and then proceed with my other projects. So this upcoming week, I actually have spring break, which is amazing because it coincides with the last 10 nights of Ramadan, which are sincerely just a special time. So I feel so fortunate to have that opportunity, to just have that time. I do think that I'm going to try and squeeze some sewing into the daytime and leave the evening for like prayer and other things. What I was able to do recently was kind of go through what are the events that are coming up and really wrap my mind around how I want to plan out my makes. I have been inundated with inspiration and looking at my fabric stash, looking at my patterns, and I just want to make all the things. And that has made it very hard for me to process like what is actually next, which is why you see me doing a lot of these like, oh, I'm going to work with scraps, low stakes, that's fine. I'm going to refashion a dress that I've already made. You know, I'm going to get these whips out of my sewing room. One, because I need to stop piling on whips. And two, because I just don't know what to do next. I don't want to make another toile, but sometimes it calls for a toile and sometimes I'm like, do I really want to do it? You know, so there's a lot of back and forth negotiation with myself. But I think after I finish the abaya, my son's birthday, the new one, he's going to be 1 next week. Wow. Wow. If you've been here and you feel like, where the heck has a year gone? I'm with you. Me and you, we're together. Where has the year gone? Now, on my Make 9, one of the things that I wanted to do was make me and my family a matching ensemble. And I believe I'm going to use this beautiful cobalt blue broderie anglaise that I picked up in the dead stock section at G Street Fabric. I think this is what I'm going to use to make our family set. I also have another cut of royal blue broderie anglaise that's a different sort of pattern, but I'm still going to use it up. As you can see, this is pretty chunky, so getting this out of my stash also helps with me sewing down my stash. I just want to make my son a shirt. I had previously used Simplicity 9201 for my older son to make him a shirt, I think about 2 years ago. And I wanted to use the same pattern because I really like it. It's a camp style collar. I just realized that it's ages 3 to 8. So I can't use this for the 1-year-old, but I do have Simplicity 9652 in my stash. It is not a camp style collar, but it seems simple. So it might be even better to just use this, use what I have. Maybe this version down here with the short sleeves without the kangaroo pocket, or that has a hoodie. I would just do like the round neck version, but with the short sleeves and no pocket. So I'm thinking something like that, just so I could get started with making our family set. And since it's his birthday, make his item now, and then proceed to make the rest of the items as the summer rolls in. The next whip that I want to tackle, and I've already started, I went ahead and sewed on that standing collar there. I want to go ahead and finish this dress. It is a butterick shirt dress that I hacked. I just used the bodice and added on my own 2-tiered gather skirt. It is a button front dress, and I need to go ahead and add the buttonholes and see if it's going to behave and play nice with me. Add the buttonholes, add the buttons, and then this dress is also done. Also, in the last video, remember when I desperately wanted to use this wool fabric? I was trying to choose between the Coda quilted coat, the women's Simplicity 8418, S88 bomber jacket or the men's bomber jacket, S9190 bomber jacket that I made before. I haven't reached a decision yet. The results were so mixed in the comments, and the weather is warming up. I do still think that I would get some wear out of this, so it really just depends on how my sewing goes while I'm on spring break. But if I don't get it done during spring break, I might just put the wool away until we enter the fall at the end of the year. And I think I'm okay with that. There's so many things that I want to get made up, so I think that would be fine. I know this video is getting incredibly long, and I do think I want to make a spring sewing plans video, but if I could just tease the fabrics that I've pulled from my stash that I would love to get started using, and if I could tease for you a couple of the patterns that I'm considering. So I have a mix of things, a mix of fabrics that I want to pull out of my stash and get working on. Some of these seem like they could be easy makes. Maybe just the cutting out might be quite involved, so I'm super excited to get stuck into them. I can't wait to share that with you when the time comes. And if you are observing the month of Ramadan, again, Ramadan Mubarak. I hope that these last 10 nights are amazing for you. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay creative, folks. Bye-bye.